Lieutenant Thorne.
Actually, it's Major Thorne now.
Well, congratulations.
Steve Martin plays the Army's most resourceful confidence man in Sergeant Bilko, the new comedy based on the hit 50s television show. It's one of 5 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel and Ebert, including a drama with James Earl Jones and Robert Duvall, also a love story starring Dennis Hopper in a rare dramatic role. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Hollywood seems to be methodically working its way through movie versions of all the top classic TV shows. We got the Flintstones, Dragnet, Beverly Hillbillies, the Brady Bunch, and now we get Sergeant Bilko. And the good news is Bilko translates to the big screen with lots of laughs and a lot of energy. This is one of the better TV adaptations. The title character is played by Steve Martin, who is no Phil Silvers, but on the other hand, he is Steve Martin, and he puts his own spin on the most larcenous master sergeant in the Army. He has just sponsored a high-stakes tug-of-war between a soldier and a horse when he gets an unexpected visit from his superior officer, played by Dan Aykroyd.
What is that?
That's horse, sir. I tell the men you have to test drive the vehicle.
What's it doing there?
It keeps the flies off the food, sir. There's no way you can tell what's wrong with an engine when it's just sitting up on the food. It's an experimental program. I'd say the results are mixed.
Another problem is how to initiate new recruits into life under Sergeant Bilko. A straight arrow PFC played by Daryl Chill Mitchell believes in doing things by the book.
You want me to turn the odometer back? Yes. I can't do that, Sergeant.
Can't! He said can't! Oh! Sergeant, you all right?
Hey, man, can't is a 4-letter word in this platoon.
Bilko's archenemy in the movie is played by Phil Hartman, who years ago was the victim of an Army boxing match where Bilko inadvertently paid both fighters to take a fall.
Let's get back to the barracks and cancel everything. The dances, the raffles, the mud wrestling on the obstacle course, everything.
Bilko's girlfriend, played by Glenn Headley, has been left waiting at the altar for him more than once.
Funny face, you won't believe what happened. There was this busload of sweet little old geriatrics. They went rolling down a mountainside and...
Do you think I'm an idiot?
Ask Wally here. He's new. He's a real straight arrow. Never told a lie in his life. Wally? See?
I was a little surprised when I heard that Steve Martin was going to play this role because I expected someone maybe a little more out of control. I can visualize Jim Carrey as Bilko, for example. But Martin was a good choice, and the movie is inventive in finding a lot of comic situations that are right for his whimsical eccentricity.
I was very skeptical of the film, too. The original show, called You'll Never Get Rich, was one of my favorites as a young kid. I loved that. I love Phil Silvers. I don't think Steve Martin is at the level of Silvers, and frankly, you can see when he is doing the imitation of the scattershot thing, you know, marching around. But the picture is funny. The situation is natural. Now, there's one and I liked it. There's one comic element that's missing that I think would have been perfect. I would have thought, I mean, this guy is making a fortune, a fortune. That's all he does is make money. If we saw the secret life of Ernie Bilko, somewhere what he's doing with all the money, it could have been a very funny payoff.
Well, I don't know. I think probably, don't you think he loses some money, too?
No.
He only wins.
He only wins.
Okay, well, that can be the sequel.
It's a good idea. Now our next movie and our next film is a serious story called Jack and Sarah about a London lawyer who loses his wife in childbirth and ends up having to deal with his newfound responsibility of raising the infant who survives. Richard E. Grant plays the antisocial man forced to raise the baby, and at first, he wants nothing to do with it. Eventually, however, the baby charms him.
You'll freeze if you go out like this. It's clean, I promise.
And then the plot becomes even more predictable as he hires a young American, played by Samantha Mathis, to be the baby's nanny.
Hello?
We're in the tub.
All right.
Amy.
Don't fall over. What are you doing?
I didn't realize you meant we. I thought you meant we.
First he ignores the nanny, but you know what's coming next. Trouble begins brewing when Mathis interrupts Grant's plans for a romantic evening with his boss.
Please don't let me interrupt. I didn't realize you were still eating.
What's the matter? When did you come in?
You need to switch those on at both ends, you know?
What's wrong with her?
Didn't you hear her? She's been screaming for I don't know how long. Guess it's difficult with Ella Fitzgerald in one ear and her in the other.
Ultimately, I think it's the predictability of this piece that scuttles it. We never believe his initial reaction to the child, which is precisely what fuels every obvious turn of the rest of the story. Richard E. Grant turns in a solid performance. Samantha Mathis is fine too. But the conventional story is just too much to handle as Jack and Sarah goes in one eye and out the other for me.
Well, I understand how it goes in one eye, but I'm not quite sure how it goes out the other. I'll tell you what saved the movie for me.
Wow.
I'm giving it a marginal thumbs up.
You're generous.
Richard E. Grant. He usually plays the heavy. He has an edge. He often plays unlikable characters. Right. He makes this work. It would have been kind of unbearable if it had been kind of a squeaky clean, real positive kind of actor. But you can
then it would have been an American comedy.
Then it would have been an American comedy, yes. Right. You can believe that he has dark tones to his soul. You can understand how his rage at the fact that his wife has died is going to be taken out on this child.
That's hard to believe, Roger.
Well, but it happens. It happens, Gene.
Okay.
It does happen.
Well,
and the fact that he turns around, of course, is predictable. And many of the other, we know that he's going to fall in love with the nanny. We know that.
You're talking about major chunks of the movie.
What we have here is that Richard Grant, as an actor, brings a texture to the material that makes it riskier.
He's good, Roger. The point is that this story, you know every second of the way what's going to happen. You know he's not going to throw the baby away. You know that. Come on. You know 95% of this movie exactly what's going to happen.
He's not going to throw the baby away, but I'm also interested in the fact that he has a change of heart and learns to be a different kind of person than he was before.
Never saw that before.
Okay, when we come back, Robert Duvall discovers that James Earl Jones is his brother in a family thing.
Earl, put that picture in your pocket. Don't bend it and don't lose it. It's your mother.
Says, Dear Earl, we had a colored woman named Willie Mae that worked for us. She cried one day and told me that your daddy had been with her a while back. She come up pregnant. Willie Mae is your real mama by blood.
Robert Duvall plays a garage owner from Arkansas there who learned after his mother's death that he has a half-brother he never knew about. Now he has traveled north to meet the brother, a Chicago cop played by James Earl Jones, in that early scene that we saw from A Family Thing. This is the kind of movie where once you accept the premise, which in this case is that they both have the same mother, all of the rest falls into place because Duvall and Jones create such likable and plausible characters.
I know the story. I know all about it. I know all about your sorry daddy. Why'd you think I want to see you?
Like I said, I did it for my mom.
As the movie opens, both men are far from happy to acknowledge their relationship, but gradually they grow closer and share old memories, some of them quite painful.
I was about 3 years old, and this little old colored kid threw something at me.
Going back.
Anyway.
People of color and all that.
Yeah, this kid hit me with a rock right there.
You were coming out of Burke's grocery store on Apple Street with your daddy.
How'd you know that?
Another key character in the movie is the blind aunt who shares a home with Jones.
Boys want me to pick y'all something to eat?
Well, take my advice. Tell her you ain't hungry.
Ray, get in here.
One time, she brushed her teeth with Preparation H.
Aunt T is played by Irma P. Hall, who is wonderful in this movie, stealing every scene she's in, like this one.
You set me all messed up, Miss T. I don't know what to think of it. I mean, you don't know what it's like to,
Well, you're right about that. I don't know what it's like for you. Nobody ever knows what it's like for somebody else. That's always the problem.
A Family Thing is basically a fantasy, I suppose, since in real life a situation like this couldn't be expected to turn out quite so warm-heartedly. But it's the kind of fantasy that makes us feel good while we're watching it, and I'm glad they wrote in the character of that blind old aunt who says things that need to be said and cuts right through the thicket of resentment and reluctance in the two brothers. The movie grew on me, and I really enjoyed the chemistry between the two men.
I had the exact same reaction, which is it's an absurd premise, but you go for it. And frankly, you go for it because of her character and also the two players. And if I have to give an edge to it, I'd say Duvall really makes the story sing. Because when we see the introduction of the James Earl Jones character, we sort of think, oh, that's a convention here. Duvall is a wonderful actor. He finds a truth in this story so that we go for it. And I liked it.
And one nice thing, when they first meet each other, and Jones is confronted with the fact, hey, this is my brother, there are ways that is handled in a standard way in the movies. Yeah. And here, the way they edge up on each other, they're older guys now. They were in their 60s. They've been through a lot. If they were in their 40s when this happened, it'd be different.
More confrontational.
They've both had a lot of experience of life, and that's what carries them through this.
It's true. The James Earl Jones character doesn't want to go anywhere near this. And he waits, and the screenplay waits and waits before they do connect. Coming up next, Dennis Hopper plays a school teacher whose life is rejuvenated by a sexy student in Carried Away.
How long has this been going on? I don't know. 3 months, maybe 4. It was her idea.
She was 17, you were 47, was her idea. You're cracking up, boy.
A school teacher in a rural town is warned about conducting an affair with a beautiful young student in Carried Away, a fine film that is significant in many ways. First, it's a breath of fresh air for the career of Dennis Hopper, something totally different from his increasingly common freaked-out monster roles. In the film, which is set in the Midwest in the 1960s, Hopper plays a teacher who is undone when a lovely new high school student comes on to him. She's played by Amy Lo Cain in a breakthrough role.
You know that you're good at, like, teaching and farming, right?
No. I'm a mediocre teacher. I'm an even a worse farmer. There goes your theory.
I don't think so. But even if that's true, there's got to be something that you're good at.
They do sleep together, and for Hopper's character, it reinvigorates him. He's in a sexually tired relationship with a longtime widow, played by Amy Irving.
You know what else I'd like to do? I'd like to with all the lights on. I'd like to do everything I ever thought of. I am tired of in the dark on Friday and Sunday nights and sometimes on Wednesday.
The moments between Hopper and Lo Cain are supercharged with eroticism and sadness.
I think it would bother me more if it had been your first time. I don't think it was it?
No. I've been with other guys.
I see.
Carried Away is based on a novel by Jim Harrison and was directed by Amy Irving's husband, Bruno Barreto, who has created a marvelous film that argues for enlivening one's life with sex. It's hardly a radical idea, but rarely has it been presented so maturely in an American movie. I thoroughly enjoyed Carried Away. Congratulations to the director and his 3 risk-taking stars.
I also thought it was a very good movie, Gene, although I'm surprised to say that it argues, you seem to feel that it argues for enlivening your life with sex. I think
not extramarital sex.
The movie is very ambiguous here because I think it's wrong that he has a relationship with this young student.
That isn't what I'm saying.
Obviously troubled.
That isn't what I'm saying.
And
I'm saying that what is very clear, the passion, the real passion in this film is between Dennis Hopper and Amy Irving, and he is pleading with her to let's lighten up our life, our sex life, because literally he wants the lights turned on.
Okay, well those are
in their relationship.
Those are very good scenes. But of course the scenes between he and Amy Lo Cain are the crux of the movie, and they're fascinating. I think that one of the most interesting characters in the movie is played by Gary Busey, who is her father, and who actually says to Dennis Hopper at one point, I believe that this was more than half her idea, because he knows his daughter. She is a troubled girl, and the fact that that is put into the mix, so it isn't just made some kind of a simple sort of sex romp or
no, that's what I said. Very mature.
Makes it into a very interesting picture.
Very interesting picture, and these stars did take risks with their body and with their emotions.
Yes, they did.
They could have looked very foolish in this picture. This is the kind of this is the kind of movie that we say never gets made in America, with some real ideas about sex.
And great to see Dennis Hopper doing such good work. When we come back, the story of the Iowa teenager who was picked out of nowhere to become a movie star. From the journals of Gene Seberg is next. Gene Seberg was a small-town Iowa teenager when she was discovered by movie director Otto Preminger and cast as the lead in his 1957 film St. Joan. It was not successful, but Preminger pressed on, casting Seberg in his next film, and then Jean-Luc Godard used her in his 1959 film Breathless, right at the start of the French New Wave. She was on her way then to becoming a movie star, but she was never happy in the role, and a fascinating new film named From the Journals of Jean Seberg follows her career from St. Joan to her death at 40 in 1979. The movie is shot like a documentary, but it's a fictionalized documentary with the actress Mary Beth Hurt playing Jean Seberg, speaking from the grave.
I had starred in 2 widely publicized Hollywood flops, and at the age of 19, I was internationally recognized as a has-been. At the age of 21, with Breathless, a bout de souffle, the second act of my career started. I was famous again. This time I hoped for the right reason, because I had something special, and I don't know what it was, that other actresses didn't have. A star was reborn. At any rate, hundreds of French women wanted their hair cut short, a la Seberg, and not because they just saw St. Joan either.
Seberg was a supporter of the Black Panthers and became the victim of one of FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover's cruel tricks when he had the agency leak lies about her to a Hollywood gossip columnist.
Because I was having an affair with a black man, I was described as a sex pervert in his files. The FBI planted a story in a Hollywood gossip column insinuating that I, without actually mentioning my name, was carrying a child by a Black Panther. Your tax dollars at work.
This is the second movie about the movies by Mark Rappaport, who a few years ago made Rock Hudson's Home Movies, narrated by an actor playing Hudson, who spoke about the gay subtext in a lot of his films. Rappaport makes it clear what he's doing. This is fiction, so there's no misrepresentation involved, and this is one of the most thought-provoking movies I've seen about the mysteries of personal images on the screen.
I liked it very much, too, and as a critic, I suppose it's obvious what I liked, and I think you did, too, which is when he lays in the film clips and stops the action and has a point come out of, a discussion point come out of this faked diary of hers. And it is an innovative way of doing film analysis as well as a biography, and I liked it very much too.
You know, one interesting thing I found out about this movie, as you know, it stars Mary Beth Hurt.
Yeah.
Rappaport finished the screenplay and thought, who can I get? And the name Mary Beth Hurt came to his mind. He called her up and she said, I can't believe you're calling me. I was born in Marshalltown, Iowa, next door to where Jean Seberg was born. I grew up next door to the Seberg family.
Coming up next, our video pick of the week. The best film of 1995 is finally available on videotape.
Siskel and Ebert's Video Pick of the Week, brought to you by Orville Redenbacher's Gourmet Popping Corn, the best part of the movies.
And now it's time for our video pick of the week. And here's some really good news. A film I've been praising for the last 14 months is finally available on home video. It's the documentary called Crumb, my selection as the very best film of last year. Roger had it #2 on his list. It's the amazing story of the underground cartoonist Robert Crumb and the sources of his emotionally powerful art. Some of it coming out of his having little success with girls as an adolescent.
I never actually had any contact with these girls except I used to play footsie with this one. Where are they now?
We also meet Crumb's older brother who taught him to draw, and he's not doing well, and we wonder why.
Charles had everybody drawing comics in the family. The Animal Town Publishing Company. That was the kind of club we had as little kids, where we sat around and talked about comics.
And Robert Crumb's other brother has a whole other set of problems.
The whole thing was this like incredible, crazy sibling thing between me and Charles and Robert up in this like little room upstairs, and the whole rest of the world didn't know what the was going on. It's like these 3 primordial monkeys working it out in the trees, you know. It's just
Crumb was directed by Terry Zwigoff, and for a year now I've called it a brave film because he doesn't have to push so hard. It's painful what we see, and yet there's a joy in Crumb too, because a marvelous artist survives a troubled home life because of his art. Terry Zwigoff's Crumb, my video pick of the week. Now let's take a look at the movies we reviewed on this show. 2 thumbs up for Sergeant Bilko, the movie remake of the classic TV show from the 50s, retooled for Steve Martin's comic talents. We split on Jack and Sarah. I thought it was well acted, but a totally predictable story of one man and a baby. Roger liked the film Edge, as well as the performance of Richard E. Grant. 2 thumbs up for A Family Thing, the drama of long-lost brothers with James Earl Jones and Robert Duvall. And 2 thumbs up, way up, for Carried Away, with Dennis Hopper renewing his film career with a brilliant performance of a man trying to rekindle romance in his life. Finally, 2 thumbs up for From the Journals of Gene Seberg, an enterprising profile of a put-upon actor. So a number of good films, and Carried Away is the one I think that strikes me as the best on the show.
Really fine. That's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with reviews of more new movies, including Primal Fear, with Richard Gere as a hotshot defense attorney who begins to distrust his newest client, and also Faithful with Cher spending the day with hitman Chaz Palminteri, who's been hired to kill her by her husband, Ryan O'Neal. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
The Libman Wonder Mop takes the mess out of mopping. Just slide the wringer sleeve down and twist. With the Libman Wonder Mop, your hands never touch water.
March is Vaseline Research Skin Awareness Month. For a free booklet, coupons, and samples of Vaseline Intensive Care Lotion and Body Wash, call 1-800-733-SKIN.
The Iced Teapot by Mr. Coffee. The easy way to enjoy fresh brewed iced tea, made just the way you want it. The Iced Teapot.
You can refinance your mortgage or get a home equity loan at the Money Store 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call 1-800-LOAN-YES.